Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from Australia, English language, released in the year 2018, directed by Luke Shanahan, and this film is called Rabbit. So Rabbit is about a woman named Maud. Maud is a medical student in Germany, and she hasn't been to Australia for quite a while because a year previous, her sister Claire, her identical twin sister, actually went missing. And so the family have come to terms with the fact that she's probably dead, but Maud hasn't. And Maud lately has been having very vivid dreams about Claire, and she believes that Claire might be alive and that these dreams are there for a reason. So she comes back to Australia, she reunites with the parents. The parents are very disappointed in Maud that they didn't go to Claire's funeral, but Maud is refusing to believe that she's actually dead. And so the parents deem her as crazy, and no one really believes what she's saying. So she teams up with Claire's boyfriend, and they're going to go on a journey of discovery. They follow the clues that her vivid dream leaves behind, and they basically end up in a very secluded community deep within the Australian bushland that might hold the key to the whereabouts of Claire, and finally Maud might be able to get the closure she wants, but in the meantime it also might prove very dangerous, and Maud might fall in the same trap that her sister did. So whether or not that is the case, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on Rabbit. This is a movie that's definitely hit and miss. There are a few qualities that I really liked about the film. There are a few qualities I didn't like, and prevents it from being the excelling film that it really wants to be. And so I will go into the negatives a little bit later, but what I liked about this movie was the concepts that it was using, and also the visuals that combined to make a very psychologically tense film. A lot of people might tell you that this is a thriller, but for me, the way that the quirky visuals are used, it's a very surreal nightmare that the film creates. Therefore, I was on the edge, and the hairs on my back and my neck was standing up in a very subtle way. And so if you are prepared to look at the minor details, I do believe that Rabbit is a very effective horror film. This is a movie that does capture you with very dreamlike sequences that close in like a bubble and make a very claustrophobic atmosphere, and that atmosphere is basically the psychological torment that the main character of Maud is going through. She wants to determine whether or not her sister is alive, and the way that her dreams connect with her reality, I thought it was very riveting in seeing where this movie was actually going to take the viewer, is that you go along with Maud on her journey through the discovery, and it gets darker and darker, and as she actually comes to terms with what's going on in this bushland, I thought, alright, well, this is actually creating something that is incredibly unnerving, but unnerving in a very subtle and masterful way. And so Luke Shanahan really knows what he's doing at actually giving the visuals a character of its own. That the visuals at the start of the film, the way the film is just shot, I just thought it was just incredibly uncomfortable, and the whole film has that discomfort that makes it a movie, in my eyes, that is a very psychological sort of horror experience. And so that was very good. I thought the soundtrack was very unnerving, and it created that sense, alright, well, I'm in for something that's it's not going to be good. And there's a level of mystery to the story that kept me guessing, and so I really wanted to know what was going to actually happen to Maud and what actually happened to her sister. And so all those questions that beg answering, it keeps you going from start to finish without it really derailing into a point of being bored or a tedious experience. And so that was all very well done. I thought that the overall continuity was actually quite fluent, to a point where I was never really looking at the time on my watch. There are themes in the film, there are concepts, as I said, that actually make it truly disturbing. There are things that are going to make you think, and the more you think about it, the more disturbed you actually become. So it's a very dark and nasty kind of film with a very fairy tale sort of undertone to it that actually creates something of a surrealistic world. And that surrealism and that, quirkiness and the bizarre quality that the film has just makes it incredibly unnerving. And so if that's your type of thing, I definitely think you're going to get a lot out of Rabbit. And as far as Australian cinema is concerned, you don't get many films like this that dare to actually make something of a quirky nature, because they're all confined to the levels of safety that have been done before time and time again. But when you actually break free of that safety, I actually thought, alright, well, Luke Shanahan actually showcases talent behind the camera. But unfortunately, the confines of safety are never truly left in Rabbit, is because although the visuals are great, although the overall deeply disturbing concepts are great, I always thought that the movie was held back by made-for-TV characters. Now, this character of Maud, yes, the actress who played Maud was actually fairly decent, because her reactions and the disorientation within her mind, I thought, was actually quite riveting, and you actually get the sense of that disorientating world through the visuals, and it's kind of like a symbolism of what she's going through and the love that she has for her sister, and actually wanting to find out what happens to her sister. But I wanted to find out for my own curiosity, to satisfy my own needs, as opposed to actually wanting to satisfy Maud's needs. I didn't care for her as a person, and so as the situation becomes more and more mysterious, I just went through it for myself. I went through it through the situation, as opposed to actually wanting Maud to reunite with the sister. And when the bad things start to happen, I didn't care as much, but what kept me glued to the screen and what actually disturbed me was the fact that it was a different sort of approach as far as visuals are concerned. So the visuals are very unnerving, but I didn't think the characters contributed to that unnerving quality that would have made the film excel into an absolutely fantastic experience. There's also a few elements to the movie and formula types that have been done before. There's a little twist that I thought, oh, I've seen that before. I thought it was pretty cool, but I've seen that sort of thing before. And there's, at the end, it dictates everything that's happened. And so I think that's kind of like an insult to the intelligence of the viewer, either an insult to the intelligence or the fact that the movie didn't have confidence in actually being able to tell the story in a subtle way. So at the end it had to basically document everything that's been going on, and there were some moments that I actually discovered for myself I didn't need to be told. And so yes, when this certain character is starting to voice over what the whole film was about, it does give you a new insight and it actually makes you want to go back and watch it again. But I think it would have been a lot more creepier in a very subtle way if it didn't really hold your hand as much. It's because I didn't think it needed to, and therefore that shows that the director doesn't have the confidence in the viewer, and that doesn't have the confidence in his techniques to tell a story without actually force feeding it down your throat. And so that's ultimately the problems I had with Rabbit. But if you like your very surreal, very disturbing, with very thought-provoking concepts in your films, then I'll definitely say go out there and see it. But unfortunately, I thought as though this is a feature film that is trying to break away from made-for-television, but it can't quite do it fully to actually make this a movie that's going to explode on the worldwide stage. So still a very interesting film that I would recommend if you're into this type of thing. I'm going to give Rabbit 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later.